Complex roots, level 2. So luckily we have a squared equation. Anytime you have a squared equation, you can use the quadratic formula. That'll be your easiest way to find whatever roots come out of this. And then we just deal with any imaginary roots if we have any negatives inside the radical. So as always, it's nice to write down the quadratic equation first to match it. So that'd be ax squared plus bx plus c equals y. So that's the quadratic equation general form. That tells us c is 82, b is negative 90, a is 25. And sometimes some people like to write it out. I just like writing it above it or below it. And it's real easy for me to kind of link together. Just don't mess up any plus or minus signs. Then you always want to write out the formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And then it's kind of nice just to practice vocabulary. What's under the square root sign is also called the discriminant. When the discriminant is negative, that means that we have imaginary numbers as our roots. When the discriminant is 0, that means we only have one root, so it bounces on the x-axis. And then if we have 2 or a positive number, if we have a positive number under the square root sign, then that means it tells us that we cross the x-axis. And then of course a would be if it's flipped up or flipped down, but let's just focus on plugging these numbers in. Okay, so x is equal to, it's telling us, so those are the zeros, 0 for y, which means it's the x-intercept, 0 for y. So x is equal to negative b is negative 90, plus or minus the square root, b squared negative 90, looks like I'm gonna need a calculator here, squared minus 4, a is 25, c is 82. All over 2 times a is 25. Okay, let's go ahead and give myself some more room over here. X is equal to, negative and a negative make a positive 90, plus or minus the square root. 90 squared would be 9 times 9 is 81. 0 times 0 is a double 0. And then a negative and a negative make this positive. Minus, here's where I need the calculator. 4 times 20. Oh, 4 times 25 is 100. And then times 82. 82 with 2 zeros. Okay. All over. 2 times 25 is 50. X is equal to 90. Plus or minus the square root of 8100 minus 8200 is negative 100 all over 50. X is equal to 90 plus or minus square root of negative 100 is 10i. Square root of a negative means the I. Square root of 100, you'd treat it normally, simplifying it if need be, all divided by 50. This is telling us that it's 90 over 50 for the real part, plus or minus 10 over 50 for the imaginary part. And then we have 2 answers here. So simplifying it one more time, zeros cancel out and you get 9 over 5, plus or minus 1 over 5, zeros cancel out, I. So I get from my real or my imaginary roots, x equals 9 over 5 plus 1 over 5i and 9 over 5 minus 1 over 5i. We always want to separate them to show that the 2 solutions, the real part always goes first, and then the imaginary part always goes second. And then if it's combined at all, we want to make sure the imaginary is kind of moved out to the side. So 9 divided by 5 plus. Well, they have the plus or minus. Okay, that's nice. Just do that. Plus or minus. 1 divided by 5. I. All right. Looks good. Got it. Okay. So like I said, a lot of times people like to list them out like this. I like writing it above it or below it. They always rewrite the formula. That's one of the keys of doing your math correctly is having the formula. Don't do it in your head. Simplifying, all the steps are done the same. Good. Next problem. Looks like exactly the same type of problem.